Thank you. Thank you so much, dear friends. It's a distinguished pleasure for me and an honor to be back to the Institute for Cultural Diplomacy. As Mark said, I have been a part of this family for over 10 years, and I have always cherished this relationship and primarily its goal. Because for me, culture has always been number one, because I strongly believe that culture in a country, in a people, in the world is the greatest wealth that we have. And we have to cherish it, protect it, share it with other peoples and cultures. As you have heard, I was a diplomat for 27 years, and I was talking to some of my friends earlier about the pride that I always felt in wearing the national costume of Cyprus, costumes, because there are different kinds of costumes, of Cyprus when I was ambassador. And I made it a point, because of my very strong connection with culture, I made it a point to project the culture of Cyprus through wearing with pride this national costume. So I have photographs at the White House with President Clinton and Hillary Clinton wearing the national costumes. I have pictures with Madeleine Albright at the State Department. I presented my credentials to the Queen of Denmark while I was ambassador also to Sweden, wearing the national costume. So this is like an introduction to how strong for me is the essence of culture, which remains until today. So this is why I'm very glad to be part of this conference with such an important topic. And I want to thank Mark for his invitation, but also I want to congratulate him and the team of ICD and the Academy for an excellent work over the years, and your achievements are beyond expectation, really. I think you are the point of reference when we talk about cultural diplomacy, and I always feel so proud when I hear young Cypriots to tell me, that they spend a year or some months here at the Institute, and how enriched they were from their experience. And this I heard several times from young Cypriots. So I will talk about reconciliation after violent conflict and division, and the healing role of culture and folklore. The human toll from the 21st century wars that are raging in many parts of the world cannot match, of course, the 20th century catastrophic dimensions of the two world wars. Let us remind ourselves that in the First World War, 16 million people died. During the Second World War, 76 million lost their lives, and in their majority they were civilians. Catastrophic wars that devastated countries and cities, infrastructures, displaced millions of peoples. We should remember this. But of course, unfortunately, human nature repeats itself. Nevertheless, conflicts continue to cause violent deaths of primarily civilians, the loss of lives, enforced disappearances, displacement of people within countries, and refugee flows of unprecedented proportions, material damages estimated at trillions of US dollars, famine, disease, as well as the dissolution of the social fabric with the destructive and the most fundamental social services and infrastructure characterize the situation prevailing in most conflict situations taking place as we speak in Europe, in the Middle East, and of course in many other parts of the world, and we should not forget that. If one adds to all these catastrophic effects the psychological wounds and the trauma caused by violent conflict, then we can get the full dimension of the devastating human-made tragedy that has shattered societies and crippled people's lives and dreams over the centuries. Regrettably, in recent years, the United Nations, that has been cardinal, the establishment of which has been cardinal after the Second World War, unfortunately has lost its credibility and its capacity to fulfill its primary responsibility enshrined in the UN Charter to use diplomacy and mediation to prevent war and to mediate peace between adversaries. A new Cold War is in the making that will, I am afraid, have detrimental effects for world peace if not wisely addressed at a global level. And we see that happening in the recent decades. The consequences of conflict create deep wounds and trauma in the psyche of the peoples affected. Hatred and animosity of between the adversaries become deeply rooted, and they inject their poisonous effects not only to present generations, but unfortunately to future generations of young people, especially if the death toll is high and the people are suffering. These wounds remain open for years and even decades after the conflict, and it takes courage, it takes determination and wisdom, especially by leaders, but also by members of civil society, to take the necessary measures and to act in directions that will help to heal the wounds that will eventually prevent the conflict from being reignited with probably more destructive effects. Such measures include economic cooperation, as was the case with the foundation of the European Union after the Second World War, and the Schuman Declaration that we celebrated on the 9th of May, that enabled the establishment of the European Coal and Steel Community, the precursor of the reunification of Europe. The merging of economic interests was wisely thought that it would help raise standards of living and be the first step towards a more united Europe. In addition to economic measures, political and security means are also important for peace, though the adoption and implementation of viable peace agreements, which, though important, they are not sufficient by themselves to ensure lasting peace. What remains indispensable is the building of trust, the building of confidence between former adversaries that would help to prevent the recurrence of conflict. And this is where culture comes, and this is where the importance of culture is manifested in helping not only to prevent and to resolve conflicts, but more importantly, to reconstruct post-conflict societies, build mutual understanding, confidence, and trust, and effect sustainable peace. When we mention culture and cultural diplomacy or soft power, The term includes, based on the Milton Cummings definition, which you all know, the exchange of ideas, information, art, language, and other aspects of culture among nations and peoples in order to foster mutual understanding. Though cultural diplomacy has deep roots in history, its different forms have gained tremendous significance in our times as a means of peacefully and constructively cooperating and exchanging views and ideas between countries, peoples, and cultures. Respecting and appreciating our different identities, our different ethnic, cultural, and religious backgrounds is manifested first and foremost in recognizing the value and in appreciating the importance of protecting cultural heritage. Without such respect, without the acceptance and tolerance of other cultures and religions, without embracing them as creations of our common humanity, as belonging to the cultural heritage of mankind, we shall never reach peace, and we shall never reach understanding among countries and among peoples. Unfortunately, in many conflict situations, including the case of my own country, cultural heritage has suffered irreparable damages as a result of the destruction caused by the war itself, or as a result of extensive looting during and after hostilities end. In Cyprus, following the war and the destruction and looting suffered by many monuments, a bicommunal decision was taken in April 2008 to establish a technical committee on cultural heritage dedicated to the identification and safeguarding of the rich, immovable cultural heritage of Cyprus and of all its communities. The committee, the Technical Committee on Cultural Heritage, aims not only to maintain, preserve, and restore the monuments, but also to create an atmosphere of building confidence and a culture of peace on the island. Each conservation site is a reflection of the cultures behind it, as well as an intersection of civilizations. Since 2012, when this committee started actually to produce results, the Technical Committee, with the support of the European Union and the United Nations Development Programme, has restored, conserved, structurally supported, or physically protected over 100 cultural heritage sites across the island. And when we're talking about cultural heritage sites, we mean churches, we mean mosques, we mean archaeological sites, we even mean artifacts that are found in situations that need preservation. So this technical committee has by itself been a peace building and a confidence building measure that has brought together experts from both communities with the common purpose of preserving the cultural heritage of Cyprus. And I think this is a success story, and this is why I am mentioning this as a first example of bringing together experts from both communities with this particular aim of preserving, conserving, and protecting cultural heritage. In addition to protecting cultural heritage, when we refer to cultural diplomacy, we also mean the utilization of all kinds of culture, including art, theater, dance, music, cinema, language, folklore, and literature, towards forging more understanding and trust among peoples. I have been for years and I remain convinced of the important role that arts, folklore, and culture can play and have played in pre- and post-war situations, in building bridges among nations as well as within countries, between different communities, building confidence and healing the wounds of war, reconciliation, and forgiveness. Culture has always been recognized as an extremely important vehicle of communication among peoples, both during times of peace as well as in times of war, through cultural engagement, which helps in transforming conflict by transforming perceptions, and especially how we look at the other, how we look at the enemy. Culture and folklore embody the historical and cultural heritage of peoples, their identity and sense of belonging to a certain group. When similarities are identified between different cultures, this points to the fact that the respective groups have coexisted peacefully and had close interaction over the course of the centuries. Also, when people learn about the culture of different other groups, they become more appreciative of the other groups, and this mutual respect brings them closer together. And here I want to mention that, as you know, there are Greek Cypriot, Turkish Cypriot communities, Maronite communities, Armenian communities, and Latin or Catholic communities in Cyprus. And there are so many similarities between these communities, especially as far as folklore is concerned. For example, we have same songs, different language. We have similar costumes, different colors. We have a lot of similarities in wedding ceremonies. Muslim, Christian, Maronite, Armenian. But these similarities point to the peaceful coexistence in the long period of presence of these communities on the island. So it's very important to identify these similarities, but if you ask me, it's important also to celebrate these similarities and bring them to the fore. In Cyprus, which has been torn by more than 60 years of protracted conflict and division, artists from both communities, cognizant of this catalytic role of culture, have embarked over the years on several collaborative projects and have taken many initiatives, working together in theater, in music, in arts, in exhibitions, dance groups, poetry, and other forms of literature. To be successful and to produce results that can be therapeutic but also meaningful, they engage the enthusiastic participation of talented artists across the divide by helping to forge partnerships and common cultural experience. Nevertheless, despite the many efforts exerted so far, the effects of cultural activities on peace building have been rather limited, and I will explain why. Because primarily of two factors: the lack of sufficient and uninterrupted support from the respective leaderships over the years. This is number one. But the most important, I think, is, and this is where I want to concentrate, is the lack of adequate funding. Because funding is important in order to implement all these projects, which is necessary for implementing all these activities. All such bicommunal cultural projects require funding, which in most cases is not available. And this lack of funding discourages and at the end prevents many artists from engaging in such activities. Additionally, on many occasions, one or the other side create obstacles or even prevents such performances to take place, either based on purely political criteria. Recently, there was a ban on a theatrical, Greek Cypriot theatrical performance to perform in the northern part of Cyprus because of political criteria, and vice versa. I mean, I'm not just mentioning this. There were other cases that were prevented from our side, but also bureaucratic obstacles. For example, you know, the fact that Turkish Cypriots, for example, living in the northern part, they don't have bank accounts in the southern part. This creates obstacles for funding from our side. So all these bureaucratic excuses result in making the life of the artists difficult, and of course in preventing them from having these important collaborations. And this is where the European Union should take a more active role in supporting all such bicommunal cultural activities. And I wish to make some proposals today. Because of my passion for culture and because of my passion for using culture as a primary peace-building project. So I will make some proposals here, and when I go back to Cyprus, I will be trying to implement these proposals through contacts with the European Union, primarily the European Union, because I think that the European Union has a role to play. Cyprus is a member of the European Union. Greek Cypriots and Turkish Cypriots are citizens of the European Union. So if the European Union really wants to help the reunification of the island, they should be more active in different ways, and I'm proposing some ways. So number one, as already mentioned, in most cases, organizing cultural activities, can we put some air conditioning, because I think it's...
You don't know, this is Germany.
Oh, okay, sorry. Huh? Anyway. Okay, as already mentioned, organizing cultural activities entails cost. And to be able to cover such expenses, it would be important to have available funds that could be used for that purpose. Towards meeting those needs, the European Union, in its efforts to contribute to the aim of building understanding and confidence between the communities of Cyprus, and to contribute towards bringing peace and reunification, should establish a substantial special fund for bicommunal and other cultural activities, to which the EU institutions, organizations, and individuals from member states and other countries could contribute for the realization of these objectives. This fund could be named the Culture for Peace Fund of the European Union, and to cover all these expenses of cultural activities taking place on the island, but also involving these bicommunal groups participating in festivals abroad. Number two, very important Greek Cypriot and Turkish Cypriot cultural events are taking place on each side in Cyprus, which unfortunately cannot be attended by members of the other communities because of the language barrier. To enable the unimpeded sharing of cultural experiences, these language barriers should be lifted by appropriate translation. Recently, there were some theatrical performances that were able to be translated, and it was possible also to use the subtitles. So it was possible for the other community also to be able to follow these performances. This should take place in a more frequent manner. So I'm proposing that part of this fund, the Culture for Peace Fund, should be also utilized for translations of theatrical performances, but also using the different modalities for the subtitles, so that the culture of both communities, but also of the other communities, the Armenian, the Maronite, be shared, so that we have the very positive effect of sharing and appreciating the culture of each other. I am also proposing the annual cultural awards under the auspices of both the United Nations and the European Union, aimed at recognizing and rewarding successful collaboration of artists, not only from the two main communities, but also from the other communities, the Maronite, the Armenian, and Latin, in the fields of music, theater, literature, and the fine arts. So annual cultural awards. Also, this is something that would enable the communities to collaborate so that they have the prospect of being awarded at this annual event. So another important use for this fund would be the translation of literature. We have literature of Greek Cypriots, very important literature of Turkish Cypriot authors, poets, novelists, and so on, which is not shared because of the language barrier. So an important part of this fund could also be utilized for translating, publishing the literature of the communities in their respective languages. Another proposal for utilizing this money would be to have bicommunal concerts of classical music, more modern music, dance festivals, so that, and there are a number of very important bicommunal musical, especially musical groups. There is one which is called Let's Sing Together Band. There are two ladies, one Greek Cypriot and one Turkish Cypriot, and they are wonderful. I wish, Mark, that we could bring these young people here. And there is another very important, it started 1996, a bicommunal choir, which is wonderful to see women and men from both communities sing different songs, not only Greek Cypriot and Turkish Cypriots, but also Armenian Maronite songs. And you cannot distinguish who is the Greek Cypriot and who is the Turkish Cypriot. So these are some very important initiatives that have already taken place, and we need to support these initiatives. And I would like to propose, Mark, that maybe in the future there is a conference or an event where we bring, not only from Cyprus, but also from other conflict areas, we bring these examples of peaceful cooperation of artists and how they have contributed towards confidence building, peacemaking in their own countries, in their own communities. Just to celebrate these success stories, I have, for example, from Cyprus, 2 or 3 such wonderful cases, very powerful. Maybe in Bosnia, maybe in other European, but also international, that could really give a very powerful example and highlight the importance of using culture and folklore in confidence building and peace building. So these are some of the examples that I gave already that I think that would be very important in a new role of the European Union to support the reunification of Cyprus. But this fund could be not only for Cyprus, but for other conflict situations. It would be a European fund, Culture for Peace fund, that could be utilized around the world. So the European Union could have a very important role in making peace and implementing peace. So I'm not going to continue because I think that I made the point that I wanted to make. A last point that I wanted to make is there are, in every conflict situation, there are in Cyprus definitely, but in every conflict situation there are different narratives. And unfortunately, these narratives are separate. There is not a common narrative. If you talk to a Greek Cypriot, he will give you a Greek Cypriot version of the pain and the suffering caused by the wars. And if you talk to a Turkish Cypriot, you will hear a different narrative. But unfortunately, these narratives, they don't tell the whole truth. So it's very important for artists, actors, musicians to help in projecting the common narrative and bringing out the truth behind the suffering of the people. This is taking place already in Cyprus. There are many theatrical plays that point to that direction. So I think also that art and culture can help in reconciliation and in bringing the truth out of the tragedy being suffered by different people from conflict situations. So thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much. No, very inspirational, and as you said, it would really be very good to bring some of those success stories to the forefront. I think especially in so many cases of the world where it's so easy to give up. It's so easy to say this is impossible. It's so easy to say this is a zero-sum game, as Yoshi Belin was saying yesterday. I think those examples may not bring peace. It may not change the overall political situation, but at least to give people hope and to make it more difficult for those who are trying to generalize and say there is no chance. So I really do think that's very important, and to do so on an international scale. So whatever we do, try to get it on the social media, make sure as many hear about it. Very, very important. And I don't know of those examples, for example. So I think that also for me it'd be fascinating, even to then, if we did that, publish some sort of a book where we have the case studies there, just to make more people aware of this. I was talking today to Dr. Mazembe in regards to Africa, where there's very little research, very little publications about actually effective culture diplomacy that has happened, that was very effective in Rwanda in the reconciliation and South Africa. So I very much welcome those suggestions, and I think let's take action on it. Make sure it's not just the speech and the theory, but the practice. So I'm sure there's many in the room who might like to help us and get engaged. But please, welcome your questions, your comments, your engagements. This is a special opportunity to hear someone who's actually experienced these issues firsthand.
So thank you very much, Erato, for the inspiring lecture. I wanted to not to make a question, but only to mark something for me, myself. I believe that education is crucial tool in order, because you were speaking about the new generations, the future generations, and you spoke about also the narrative. So the narrative is staying for the next generations if it's not changed on the educational matter. Education is also, when you are a child, when you are going to school and then high school, you come to school and you are studying what there is in the program in the education. And it has a crucial role, if it's used correctly, also to be able to affect the narrative and also to make the ripple effect, so to say, including in this Culture for Peace Fund an educational program which will include this culture, which common cultural heritage, common culture, the literature, the translation, that the communities will be much exposed through the education, because the next generation is the important one in order to be able to make the change. So just a small remark to include in the big plan that the education and that will be implemented in agreement between both communities in the national policies of, at the Ministry of Education.
Very important question. I didn't touch upon education because purposely I wanted to bypass the leaderships. To my mind, they have failed so far to implement the right policies, and this is why we have a continuation of this situation for nearly 60 years. So I concentrated more on the role of civil society, and in particular culture, and how the people of culture, the artists themselves, can contribute in that direction. And I think they have contributed, because with education you need leaderships. You need leaders who will be inspired, who will realize that they need to change. For example, history books. They continue to poison young people. We need a revolution in the education systems of both communities, and we haven't had it for so many years. So this is why I wanted to concentrate more on what is doable and what can be affected by civil society, by artists, with the support, of course, of the European Union, because without this support, it is not possible.
So one more
Yeah.
Just going with you on that, and it's a known fact. I mean, I understand very much this point. So the European Fund can create some kind, as part of promoting the artists, offer that, so to say, for free as a cultural component of the education, not to force policies or to make a big revolutions. Big revolutions start with small steps that maybe the communities will be happy to get. Oh, there is a show play today for the schools offered by the European Fund for free, and to bypass and come from the back door. So it will be done through the civil society, funded by the European Fund. But my point is that it will reach a greater audience, just to take it in consideration when it's the plan, the funding plan of the European. So it will be, it could be reached not to touch only individuals or few artistic communities, but will spread more over.
No, I believe so. I believe so that I strongly believe of the important role of civil society in any conflict situation, and particularly the inclusion of civil society in the negotiating process. And this is something I didn't touch, but I wanted to inform you that recently there was an initiative in Cyprus, and I am a part of that initiative, of women from both sides of the divide, Greek Cypriot women, Turkish Cypriot women, for the first time joining forces with one voice. One voice, not different positions, not part of delegations of the leaders, because the delegations of the leaders, they have different, one position and three very important aims. The first is the urgent solution of the Cyprus problem, based on the agreed framework and so on. Second is the participation of women at the negotiating table. So we demand a seat at the negotiating table as one voice of Greek Cypriot and Turkish Cypriot women, and also a gender perspective of the solution of the Cyprus problem. So this is something that was created very recently, about 3 weeks ago, And we are trying now to involve all the other organizations of women, because without civil society, without the negotiations being inclusive, another 60 years or 100 years, we're not going to solve the problem.
We have another question in the front.
Thank you. So, Your Excellency.
With the microphone.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So, Your Excellency, inspiring talk and extraordinary achievement, considering that when I was a student and I was a beneficiary of the Leventis Foundation, there were representatives of Cyprus hunting antiquities at auction houses that they were spirited out from the north part of Cyprus. So I have a suggestion to this great suite of actions to make culture a peacemaking tool. So Cyprus has been the crossroads of cultures since like the third millennium BC. So what about having also a digital record or repository that includes cultural assets from across the island, tangible and intangible heritage, also preserved in oral history from these last generations of people who survived trauma and division and wars and destruction. And I know that the University of Cyprus is a pioneer in all things digital. So that's the first bit, because I'm afraid I'm an archaeologist. I'm always pessimistic about the preservation of heritage for different reasons. So to have it there, live forever, at least on the digital space, is fantastic.
Yeah.
So, and then I have a question for you regarding the, if I say, ideological roadblocks from the side of North Cyprus. So for the past, since 2020, I have been lamenting as a Byzantinist this heightened religious rhetoric happening in the neighboring country, Turkey, and we have Hagia Sophia. Last week we had the Monitis Horas, Kahria Jami. So how these NGOs from both sides, civil society, deal with monuments, because many of your monuments on the island of Cyprus are religious. You have Crusader cathedrals, you have churches, mosques, and I deplore this kind of small-minded expediency. Let's transform everything into something, just because in order to please. So are archaeologists on both sides on the same page?
Now, regarding the first point on the digitalization, this technical committee that I mentioned already has a register, not a digital register with detailed information, but for the first time, since I don't know when, we have a register of all churches, of all mosques, of all archaeological sites, of all everything that is throughout the island. So we have one of the tasks of this technical committee is to make this register. But also you mentioned the University of Cyprus, but I am very proud because I'm a member of the board of the Cyprus Institute, which already has a digital registry of all archaeological sites, of all churches, and now they start with other like mosques and so on. So this is a project which is funded by an individual who is very, very supportive of culture, with a €500,000 fund, that the purpose is really to register the cultural heritage of the whole of Cyprus in a digital form. Perfect. So this is something that is going on. Now, regarding the second point that you mentioned, the conversion of different sites, unfortunately, this has been taking place in Cyprus. But again, the purpose of this technical committee is to restore these sites, and I mentioned about 100 of these sites have been already restored. And when they are restored, they cannot be converted. So this is a way of, let's say, an agreement between the communities, between the experts of this committee, that once these monuments and these sites and these religious places are restored and protected, they cannot be converted to anything else. But they probably not immediately the use of them as religious sites, but at least preservation of their use as religious sites. So this is another achievement, I think, of the Technical Committee on Cultural Heritage.
I think this is ingenious and
Yeah.
also more effective
Yeah.
than communiques by international organizations that fall on deaf ears.
And this is why this committee has been awarded several times. By the European Union, they got an award of the year for the best initiative in the European Union. UNESCO, Europa Nostra, they have awarded this effort several times because of their successful stories.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you so much for your good presentations. My question is that what's
Thank you
the
for the handkerchief, by the way.
Yeah, I know the situation. You talked a lot of things about the culture and also for the many issues for the Cyprus. What is the culture policy between the Cyprus and Turkey about the Turkish countries' policy, diplomacy for the cultures and music and other issues? Because I'm the expert of the communication, political communication, a long time between the Turkish country and also the Cyprus is for the cultures and also for the diplomacy and for the culture and other issues. Sometimes it's good or sometimes it's wrong. In this case, explain what's the policy in this issues. Thank you.
I get it as more a comment, not a question that you made. But no, it's very important that we resolve this problem. This problem has been going on, as I said, 50 or 60 years. It depends from where you start. 60 years is when the intercommunal conflict started between the two communities. 50 years is since the Turkish invasion of 1974. And the occupation of the northern part of Cyprus by Turkish troops and the division of the two communities. So we need to resolve it. We have not been successful so far, despite the many efforts of the United Nations. But this is a priority for both communities. At least, I'm talking as a former part of a negotiating team of our side, but also as a former foreign minister, a former diplomat. But now I'm talking more about member of the civil society, because I have been very instrumental recently in bringing together people from civil society to be more demanding on the urgency of solving the Cyprus problem. So we need to be more successful in that direction.
Final question or comment? Please,
Thank you very much for a very incisive presentation. One of the things you mentioned in your presentation is the failure of UN diplomacy, cultural diplomacy, and which is really one of the principal reasons why it was formed in the first place. That war UN system from your experiences as for a former foreign affairs minister, how can we make the UN more effective an organization, and maybe bring it back to the days of Dagama Short, who died in service, going to a conflict situation, than the current disposition of the UN system, where they just issue testimonial statements from very far from the conflict situation itself, and nothing happens. It's just testimony from New York.
Yeah. We need. Yeah, I think the next.
We need to inform the
Yeah. As you know, the United Nations is not just an abstract organization. It's what the member states stand for, especially the Big Five. So unfortunately, the present deplorable situation that we're facing in the United Nations, which has lost its credibility, if you ask me, in many world situations, is a result of this non-cooperation between the 5 permanent members of the Security Council. And this reflects on every activity of the United Nations, especially on the political side, because if you look at the health, other international problems which are non-political, there are success stories of the United Nations. But on the political side, unless you have agreement between the 5 permanent members of the Security Council, and this is where the reform comes. But in order to have the reform, you need the cooperation of the 5 permanent members. So this is unfortunately a reflection of the current mistrust, non-cooperation, enmity between especially United States and Russia. I mean, this is the end result of. And this is, I think, the very core problem that we are facing today with the United Nations. You have a Secretary General who is speaks, but he's not being backed by the Security Council, for example. So unless we have a transformation of this situation, which is not in sight, unfortunately, we will continue to have United Nations that is not up to its responsibilities. And unfortunately, this is bad for everyone, but especially for small countries. And countries that are defenseless, they don't belong to different defense organizations, and their only hope was this UN system that was their protection. So unfortunately, we are going to continue to have this situation unless there is a change in relationship between the permanent members of the Security Council.
Is it also not a function of the current bureaucracy that's also
No, I wouldn't say that it's the bureaucracy of the United Nations. We should not really blame either the Secretary General or they are bureaucrats. They are. What is important is the governments, and they are the ones that are decisive in any activity of the United Nations. It's not the bureaucrats of the UN. They are employees. They are even the Secretary General. He is the highest ranking employee of this organization. So it's not their fault of what is going on and what is not going on at the United Nations. It's the governments, and this is what we have to blame.
We need to push the reform.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that's where they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
We are working on it. From morning till evening. Yeah, there is.
Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's time to express our sincere gratitude to Dr. Erato Kozakou-Marcoullis. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for the speech.